Alaska Airlines has teamed up with Hawaiian Airlines to create new nonstop international flights. Go to alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com, and I'll tell you more details later in the show. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, Bridget Everett, Emmy-nominated actor, writer, and producer of Somebody Somewhere. The same show we talked about last week when her co-star Jeff Hiller was on the podcast.
Jeff was much more charming than me, so I apologize in advance.
Oh, great. Bridget is also a singer and comedian. Time Out called her one of the funniest people in New York, and she's currently touring her cabaret show with her band, Bridget Everett and the Tender Moments. I got to see her show last week, and she has 2 more coming up in New York City in October. Bridget's Last Meal takes us to New Orleans' second oldest restaurant. And I chat with the owner, Dickie Brennan, about what Creole Italian food is and the restaurant's long history. And French toast. Is it actually French? We'll find out later in the show. But first, my conversation with Bridget Everett. Before she started getting TV roles, and long before she scored her first starring role on Somebody Somewhere, Bridget spent many years performing her own wild, playfully raunchy cabaret show in New York City, a show she still performs.
I'd started developing it earlier in my career, and I just had a lot more sort of like a wildebeest kind of energy. I just felt like sort of untamed, and every time I would get on stage, I felt like I shot out of a cannon. So there's still a lot of that energy in it. It's very physical. It's like an athletic event for me. The singing is hard, the performing is hard, but in the best kind of way. I want to just use every inch of my body to make people feel alive. So that's what I try to do.
You worked in restaurants for 25 years.
At least. I think it might be more.
I was just wondering when you left the restaurant world and where you were in your career that you were able to.
I left about... like 10 years ago. I mean, not even that long ago. I was doing it into my 40s. I was doing a show called Rock Bottom with Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman. And I was also waiting tables at the time. And the GM at the restaurant, I put in a schedule request and I was working there less and less, but holding on to it because of my health insurance. And she's like, "Are you sure you want to keep doing this?" She just kind of gave me like a little bit of a push. And so I left. I went to do my show that night at Joe's Pub or the Public Theater. I did Rock Bottom and I told the audience, and like everybody erupted and gave me, I swear to God, a 10-minute standing ovation, because a lot of my fans are people that have been with me for a long time and know that I've been kind of hustling. And that was kind of what got me started. And then I started touring with Amy Schumer. And just like once I quit that job, it's like jumping off a cliff. Like everything started happening for me. And eventually I ended up getting a show with HBO, but there was still like a lot of touring, a lot of just doing everything I could, but not waiting tables anymore. And it was a real victory for me because as much as I like restaurants, I'd had enough.
What was your first restaurant job and what was your last restaurant job?
My first restaurant job, I was a dishwasher and busgirl at this place, Raoul's Escondido in Manhattan, Kansas. All my brothers and sisters had also worked at Raoul's, and I was not very good. I was not very fast. But, I was like 14 years old at the time. And in Kansas, you can drive when you're 14 to work in school when you're 14. At least you could at the time. So I had a car. So it was like worth it. I'll just go and be a shitty bus girl, a dishwasher. And yeah. And then so I just kept doing that through high school, college, and on through New York. And my last job was Ocean Grill, which is right around the Museum of Natural History. It was owned by Steve Hansen. I worked for him at another restaurant called Ruby Foods in New York. I've been in that game for a long time.
Well, I read that you still have dreams about it, stress dreams.
I do, not as much as I used to, but I still will have them. And it's so crazy. I'm like, why after all these years? But I just think it's in my bones. I got to be a really good waiter, like a very efficient. I mean, I could be a little cranky sometimes, but I was always very efficient. unlike my real life, when I was waiting tables, I could really keep like a running task list. And now I can barely, I get up, I'm like, what did I get up for? Am I going to the bathroom? I can't remember.
What are the stress dreams that you have about it?
Being in the weeds is like the main thing. And then driving home from work from a stressful shift and the brakes don't work. So I'm not sure what all that's about.
Oh, no.
Please tell me what that means.
I guess it means you feel out of control.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that
I'm
seems
a dream
like
analysis analyzer now.
yes.
Yeah, I can't even say the word, but I am that. You learned to cook a little later in life. Maybe this had to do partially with working in restaurants for so long you didn't really need to. How did you learn to cook?
So I did the Worst Cooks in America Celebrity Edition. It was like season 17 or something. Celebrity is a loose word for me anyway. I mean, there were some well-known people on it, but yeah, I had Chef Ann was my instructor, my team leader. And you know, she really cared. She cared about us learning. There was one point in judging, I never watched it because I don't like to watch myself, but you know, I'm sure it didn't make the cut. It was like a life lesson moment. She was like, you know, if you just apply yourself, you could be really good at this or something like that. And I was like, she was disappointed in me because I was kind of around, you know, and I love that she's been doing this for so many years. You know, Chef Ann with the spiky blonde hair on the Food Network.
Just going to ask if that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridget is talking about Chef Ann Burrell, who died by suicide on June 17th in her Brooklyn home. She was 55 years old. If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, call the 24/7 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Just dial 988. My interview with Bridget happened before Ann's death.
You know, I think she probably wanted to win, but she also wanted us to walk away learning. And it was so great because it was right before the pandemic. And I was able to take, like, I didn't know how to chop an onion or, you know, just stupid stuff or how to boil potatoes the right way, you know, and with the things she taught me, I was able to like then go to cookbooks and recipes online. And now I'm making salad dressings and, you know, I'm making from scratch and like winging it in the kitchen. And sometimes I'll sit down and be like, damn, this is good. Like surprised and shocked when we were filming, I would make, you know, homemade salsa for everybody. And like, we would come over and I'd have like these big parties and make them a bunch of food. And Mary Catherine was like the real cook on the show who played Trisha. But I think it's fun. I don't know. I don't like the cleanup. I know nobody does. I was just so happy I had that opportunity. I would do it again if they did like a reunion, like, you know, if they brought people back, like all the people that lost that want to try to win again. What do they call those? I don't know. Like a rematch. Rematch. Yeah. I want to do a rematch on Most Cooks in America. I'm back.
That would be actually really cool to have you come back and they could compare and see that you actually took it to heart and you learned from the show, which I don't know how often that happens.
Oh, yeah. And she shows people, you know, like there was like the way that you hold the knife and anyway, blah, blah, blah. And she had cats. She had these Maine Coon cats and I don't know. Who cares? Bridget, stop talking. What's the next question?
I care. I like this stuff. I like cats and onions. In Somebody Somewhere, you and your best friends have this restaurant that you go to breakfast at. It's your regular place, The Chef, which is a real restaurant in Manhattan, Kansas. Do you have that in your real life, a place that is like your home base?
Well, I was just in Kansas last weekend and I was at The Chef twice. I was there Saturday and Sunday. I have a little routine. I go get my coffee first thing while my brother is still sleeping. He's on California time. Put my name in at The Chef like everybody else. You know, try to get there early so we can beat the crowd just like my mom used to do. It's so great. I love going there. And people come to Manhattan now to see, they like the show. Sometimes people come. And so I saw somebody when I was there this weekend that had been in town because they love Somebody Somewhere and they always saw each other at The Chef. And I thought that was really cool. And they get French toast for the table, just like I do.
So cute.
And my three brothers and I, you know, we're all trying to like sort of back off the carbs, you know, bikini season's right around the corner and everything, but you can't help it. We get French toast for the table and we get their house-made biscuits with a warm strawberry jam. And then you're not hungry by the time your breakfast comes, but you have to do it because that's a routine.
Is Joe's Pub still your spot? I mean, it's where you performed for so many years. Does that kind of feel like a home away from home too?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going back this year. There is such a comfort there. And I love the French fries.
What style are they?
They're the thin and crispy. And they're not necessarily the kind that I think I like, but I just love them. I don't know if they like double fry them or something or what they do, but they're long and skinny. I get them with the malt aioli and the ketchup and Oh my God. I can't eat them all, but they're good. If I forget to order them and somebody has them in the audience when I'm working the room, I take a fistful off the table and people never get mad.
French toast for the table at the Chef in Manhattan, Kansas is a tradition for both Bridget in real life and for her character on Somebody Somewhere. Let's talk about French toast, which, dun dun dun, is not really French at all.
Well, not originally.
That's Max Miller, creator and host of the popular YouTube show Tasting History.
Who was the first person to make this dish, or, the first culture? We don't know, but the first ones to write it down were the ancient Romans. It was a little bit different than it's made today, but there is something very similar in the cookbook Apicius, written sometime between the 1st and 4th century, that is like French toast. The ancient Roman version from Apicius was simply called aliter dulcia, or another sweet. And this one says to remove the crust from wheat bread and break into mouth-sized pieces, soak in milk, fry in oil, pour honey over, and serve. So you've got the milk, you've got the oil, egg will come later. But everything else is pretty much there. It's just instead of cinnamon and sugar as the flavoring, it's honey to sweeten it.
It sounds very good.
Yeah, it is.
Turns out a lot of people thought this ancient version of French toast was very good because it quickly spread throughout Europe and was enjoyed with many different flavorings and called many different names.
In the Middle Ages, it was often sweetened with sugar, but also things like rose water and saffron. They like to make it golden. I sometimes think that maybe that would kind of be interesting to see on a Denny's menu.
The Rudy Tooty Fresh and saffron.
Exactly.
Rudy Tooty Fresh and rose water.
Yeah.
When did it start being called French toast?
So it didn't start being called French toast until the 17th century. In 1660, in an English cookbook called The Accomplished Cook by Robert May. And he is the first one to call this dish French toasts. It's interesting because it is actually steeped in claret or sack or some sort of wine, and then has sugar and orange juice added, bitter orange juice. It's actually not fried the way that French toast is today. There is no egg or milk or anything. So it is pretty different in the flavor. It's much more alcoholic. And this actually comes from a tradition of medieval cooking, which is usually called sopes dorées, or golden sops. Big pieces of toast that would be soaked in something to sop it up. That's where we get the term sop. It's also where we get the term soup. And they would soak this up, and then they would grill it or bake it or fry it in some way to kind of toast the outside.
But nobody knows why this British man called it French toast. Oh, and by the way, this dish was always a dessert. It wasn't until Americans got hold of it that this sweet treat was served for breakfast.
In 1866, in Goodies Ladies Magazine, edited by Sarah Josepha Hale, who
started
did
Thanksgiving.
many things. She wrote, she came up basically with the idea.
She was the one pushing for Thanksgiving, yeah.
She's also the person who wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. She includes a recipe for French toast, which is pretty much the same as we have now, and talks about it being a good dessert. But she is also the person who says, if nicely prepared, it is an excellent dish for breakfast, quite equal to waffles. So this is the first time that we start seeing it as a breakfast food.
Okay, desserts for breakfast, ranked. I think I'm going number 1 pancakes, but they have to be really good pancakes. Number 2 waffles, and wah wah French toast. Sorry, French toast, but if you want to get French toast for the table, I'm definitely eating some. After the break, Bridget shares her last meal. If you're like every other American I know, you want to go to Japan. And lucky for us, Alaska Airlines has teamed up with Hawaiian Airlines to offer daily nonstop flights from Seattle to Tokyo. And starting this October, Seattle to Seoul. If you are tall and have long legs like I do, relax with seats that lie flat in the premium cabin. You can stay connected with free Starlink high-speed internet, and no matter where you sit in the plane, you can enjoy all kinds of tasty snacks and drinks, all made in the Pacific Northwest, like Stumptown coffee, canned straightaway cocktails, and a plant-based grain bowl created with evergreens. Book your tickets to Tokyo now at alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com. Okay, what would your last meal be?
My last meal, if it wasn't French toast for the table at the chef, it would be, it's kind of stayed the same for a long time. So I think that's how I know it's right. It's at Pascal's Manale in New Orleans. I would get oysters at the oyster bar, and I believe the guy's name who's been there for a number of years is Thomas. He's legendary. And then I would go sit in the dining room and I would have barbecue shrimp there, which come with a baguette. And it's like, not barbecue sauce. It's like New Orleans barbecue. So it's like black pepper, butter, Worcestershire, who knows what else is in there, spices. It is so good. You cannot believe how good it is. And it's, and then you take the butter and you dip it in the sauce. And then afterwards, you're absolutely just sick to your stomach, but you have to get the bread pudding. I love bread pudding. You just can't have that kind of meal too often because it's so rich. But, when you're in New Orleans, you're there to play. So the first time I went there, somebody gave me a joint and I was like, oh my God, this, I don't even barely smoke pot, but I was like, I love New Orleans.
At the table, you were sitting at the table and someone gave you a joint.
Yes, I just had the best meal of my life, and now somebody's giving me a joint. I'm not even gonna smoke it, but they gave it to me. Wow, this is good.
That's so funny because the first time I went to New Orleans, I was 19 and I had a fake ID. I was on a cross-country trip with a friend, but I was not wanting to use it a lot because I didn't want it to get taken away. And we were eating at a restaurant, probably on Bourbon Street, because we were young and like super touristy. And the server asked me if I wanted a hurricane. And I said no, because I didn't want to show my fake ID. And she came back again and again. Are you sure? Are you sure? And finally just put it on the table in front of me in one of those giant, like 3-foot bong, plastic cup things that you could take home. And the same thing, I was like, I love it here. I love it here.
Yeah, it's great down there. I love it. And I've gone back every single time I've been in town.
I love that. It's fun to have a local place where you don't live that kind of makes you feel like it's your second home.
Yes, I agree. I do that wherever I go. If I go somewhere and I love a sandwich or something, even if I'm on the other side of town, instead of exploring and trying something new, I go back to the one place I know I'm going to love, which is kind of a waste. But I also like to see people again, like, I'm back, even if they're like, okay, who's this? But I'm like,
it's me. I don't know. I think you're actually doing it the right way because I'm the opposite. I always want something new. And then it often isn't as good as the other thing I could have had. So I get burned a lot and you probably don't.
I just like to stick to what I know is good.
What would you want to drink with your last meal?
I would start with the oysters. I would have a martini, vodka martini, up with a twist no vermouth, which I guess is just straight vodka, but it's a last meal. And then I might, have a second one as we transition to the table. And then at the table, because it's my last meal and I have a long, loving, storied relationship with Rombauer Chardonnay, I would have some Rombauer Chardonnay. And then with my dessert, I'd say a full-bodied red, surprise me, to whoever our server is.
For her last meal, Bridget Everett wants oysters, the barbecue shrimp, and bread pudding from Pascal's Manale in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Is it Pascal's Manale?
Well, New Orleans, you kind of have to put a little where you at into it. So it's Pascal Manale's.
That's Dickie Brennan, owner and managing partner of Dickie Brennan and Company. He's also a chef and third-generation New Orleans restaurateur. The Brennan family owns a lot of restaurants in New Orleans, including some of the oldest and most beloved, like Commander's Palace and Pascal's Manale. Manale's. Okay, I had a feeling
That's perfect.
I'm saying it like a West Coaster.
I always say everything north of New Orleans is the South. We don't talk slow. We don't drink sweet tea. I mean, New Orleans, it's its own little world. And I don't know what we sound like, but we don't sound like Southerners. Have more of that where you at. It's a crazy dialect here.
Well, I love it because I feel like a lot of regional accents and dialects are starting to fade as people move around the country. And so anytime anyone has an accent, it makes me happy.
I love it. You'd enjoy New Orleans.
Pascal's Manale was opened in 1913 by Italian immigrants.
There was a huge migration of Sicilians coming to New Orleans back at the turn of the century. You know, Frank Manale was like 12 years old. His family gets on the boat and they come to New Orleans. They were in kind of grocery restaurant. They had a bar, they had a butcher shop, all these different things. And then eventually it became Pascal Manale's in 1913, which is like the second oldest restaurant in New Orleans, which is crazy. We have a bunch of 100-year-old restaurants in New Orleans. Antoine's is the oldest restaurant in America, and it's like 177 years old. So rich history of restaurants here, and most of them are family owned and operated, like Manale's was for many years. Pascal was Frank's nephew, and eventually, bought the restaurant from Frank. And so that's when it became Pascal's Manale's.
Kind of like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Yeah, we have a bunch of that.
Everyone just adds their name.
When it's that many generations and they continue on, it happens. It's such a beautiful part of New Orleans history and our culture is these old restaurants. And it stayed in the family for many years. And then we had the opportunity to buy Pascal's and to be the next chapter. So we bought it in 2023. We bought it on St. Patrick's Day. The Brennans are Irish, and we just bought an Italian restaurant. My family's been going to Pascal Manale's my whole life. The last time I took my dad out to eat in a restaurant, it was Pascal Manale's. Then he passed not too long after that.
Pascal's Manale is not a typical Italian restaurant. It's Creole Italian. You can order spaghetti and meatballs or veal parmigiana, but there's also gumbo. There's a dish called combination pan roast, described as oyster, shrimp, and crab meat chopped in a blend of shallots and parsley seasoning. And there's turtle soup. Is that a New Orleans dish?
If you go to any of the 100-year-old, certainly the French restaurants, it's on all the menus. And two of the oldest proteins in New Orleans was turkey and turtles because they were in the bayous. They're brackish water. They're not sea turtles. They're not endangered. Every kid in this city grows up eating turtle soup. Very Creole.
Yeah, tell me more about it. I'm just looking at a picture and it just looks like a creamy, orangish, brownish soup. What's in there?
So the Trinity, a lot of vegetables, a really dark roux of veal stock. Then we flavor it with some cooking sherry. Then it's finished with spinach and eggs. And we take whole lemons and we just pulverize it. That acid from the lemon's real important. But it's rare for anybody to eat it and not go, wow, that's really good.
All right, so let's talk about Bridget's last meal, starting with oysters.
When you walk in the door, the first thing you see is an oyster bar. Our shucker, Uptown Tea, Thomas, has been there forever. He's the most popular, well-known oyster shucker in the city of New Orleans. But in New Orleans, we have stand-up oyster bars. There's no seating. You belly up, he shucks, puts them on the marble tabletop, and you just eat a dozen or you keep going. So that's a real tradition at Pascal's is having oysters before you go sit down.
Next up, the dish Pascal's became very well known for, it's barbecue shrimp.
Louisiana is not known for barbecue. I mean, that's a Texas, North Carolina. This is not a barbecue flavored shrimp dish. It is butter with a lot of pepper. Pascal had a friend, Vincent, and this guy, Vincent, was Pascal's best friend. He was up in Chicago and had a dish, and he came home and he's describing it. So Pascal just went and made this shrimp dish. I guess with the color of the shrimp, kind of the pink, the red or whatever, but it was a bright red, peppery sauce. And that's why I said barbecue. But it's beautiful Gulf shrimp, the head-on shell, sauteed or baked in the butter with a lot of pepper. And we put a bib on you. You start peeling the shrimp. It goes everywhere. And I say you peel the shrimp real quick to get them out of the way because you want to take our French bread and put it in that sauce and just go at it. So it's been well enjoyed for many generations.
and the bread pudding.
What I always love about the bread pudding, it's the same bread pudding my grandmothers would make, and it's very typical in New Orleans. They put raisins in with the bread. The raisins in a bread pudding is, as we say, naturally New Orleans, and then it's a hard sauce. But it's the French bread, just a good custard, egg, milk, sweetened. It's very simple, simplicity at its best, but boy, it's good. It's a great bread pudding.
Dickie's family, the Brennans, have been running restaurants in New Orleans since the 1940s. And now his daughter, his niece, and his nephew are the fourth generation to join the family business. All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, Bridget tells us what food she shoves into her mouth by the handful every morning. You have your own little health regimens that you do every morning. Could you tell me about that?
You know, I get my blood work done at the doctor, and she's like, you need to eat more greens. So I looked up how to get the highest concentration of nutrients in the smallest amount. Because, my friend Matt from my band said he should just start every day with a fistful of greens. And so I was doing that for a while with a fistful of spinach. But now I buy microgreens. And I pot them all day long. I just take a handful of microgreens and I put them in my mouth. And my numbers at my doctor are real good. So it's working. And I also make ginger, like straight ginger juice, which is real intense. But I drink probably between 8 and 12 ounces of that a day. Like, when I was doing it when we were filming, my eyes started twitching and I couldn't figure out what was making my eye twitch. And then I scaled back on the ginger juice. I was like, oh, I think it's a ginger. It's too much. But I'm really always so nervous about getting sick. So I take a bunch of vitamins, my microgreens, and I just pound the ginger as much as I can.
I'm just picturing you like a goat on a farm with all the greens kind of sticking out of your mouth. You just put in the whole handful and just like slow chewing.
Oh yeah, and my friends Zach and Jason were at my house, and it's just a habit now. So I go to the refrigerator and have all these microgreens, and I reach in there, and I'm just, they're like, what is she doing? She's taking, like, it's a weird thing to see a woman my size just like pounding and it's literally like the little tendrils are just sort of hanging on my mouth, but because I try to do as fast as I can, and I actually kind of like it now. I like the flavor. I feel like it gives me an instant kind of boost. Who knows what else it does for me? Maybe nothing, but my doctor says my numbers are good, so I'm sticking to it.
Growing up, my grandma had a drawer full of pink Sweet and Low packets that she had stolen from restaurants, but Bridget's mom took it to the next level.
So Raoul is the restaurant where I worked, and my brothers and sisters also worked. We used to go there, and my mom would ask for a to-go box, and she would just, instead of like scraping out the salsa and putting it like in the little container, she would take the actual ramekin, put it in the container, take the CCQ, which is like, we call it chili con queso, take the crock and put it in the styrofoam container, and then dump the chips in there. And I'm like, Mom, you can't take the dishes. I'll bring it back.
Did she ever bring them back?
Occasionally. My mom, she liked to hold on to things. She used to go to McDonald's and get these caramel mochaccino. She'd tell the kid in the drive-thru, make it like you make it for yourself. She's a diabetic, or she was a diabetic. And these like 32-ounce hot caramel mochachinos with just mounds of whipped cream and caramel sauce and chocolate everywhere. And then she would save the cups. So she had like, it had to be at least 100. And when I went to her house, I was like, I gotta get rid of some of the stuff, like the ketchup packets and the to-go napkins and everything that she saved. I need those. Like just grip paralyzed that I was gonna take away these cups that she would never ever use. But I guess better her house than in a landfill. But still. They let my mom get away with murder, like if she didn't have the money, she could write with the check, pay with the check the next time. And I don't know, my mom just used to get away with a lot of stuff because she's Freddie and everybody just loved her and let her get away with stuff. I don't know. She's very naughty. I remember she picked me up from the airport one time and we were driving into town and there was this new ice cream place. And she said, oh, we should try this. It's new. I said, oh, okay. I was like, have you been? No. And we pull in and she says, hello. And they say, hi, Freddie. Oh.
That's really cute. It sounds like she was very playful.
Yeah, she's a real character.
I loved reading about this relationship you have with your costume designer, Larry Crone, and the dinners that you guys have together. It sounds like he will make you whatever you want. He kind of makes your culinary dreams come true.
Yes. Larry and Jim, his husband, are both incredible cooks. We have a bunch of, dirty names for all the food we make because that's just how our brains work. But I go to his house and they'll make there's this chicken thing he does over potatoes. So the potatoes are all cooked in the schmaltzy lalas. And then he makes fresh homemade pasta. They can make anything. But the homemade pasta is a real treat. My friend just gave me a pasta maker because I was talking about Larry making pasta. And I did win the pasta round just to bring it all back full circle. I won the pasta challenge on Celebrity Worst Cooks. I made a spring pea ravioli, I believe. So I have a pasta maker now. And I don't know, maybe I'll give that a whirl this weekend just because we're talking about it.
You should. Have you used it yet?
No, it's still in the box, but I just got it. So
yeah. It's actually not as hard as you think. It just you'll be a little slow at first while you get used to handling everything. But I mean, it actually is really easy. You should do it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's going to be rainy this weekend, so why not?
And that was Bridget Everett's last meal. Go to bridgeteverett.net to get tickets to her show. You can also find a link in the show notes. Thanks to Dickie Brennan. Make sure and check out one of his many restaurants next time you're in New Orleans. And thanks to Max Miller, host of Tasting History on YouTube. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member. And for as low as $5 a month, you'll get on-demand access to all PBS programming, and you'll help keep public media afloat. This episode was produced by me, senior producer Sarah Bernard, edited, mixed, and mastered. Original theme music by Prom Queen. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal.
I still have this thing on my chin, but I can live with it. It's okay.
I just covered something up too. Can I give you some concealer through the...
Oh, no. It's real life. There's no reason to hide.
What is the story of Pascal's Manale? Did I say it right?
You back to the
I did it right.
Manales. But you're probably saying it right. We screw it up here in New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm upstate. If the birds are chirping too loud, ugh.
Oh, it's so annoying. Sometimes I just drop money on the floor and it's so loud, It's really annoying.